Hello and welcome. My name is Debbie Emily. I am from the Resonate Wellness Centre in New Zealand, and I would like to share with you some of the sessions that have happened throughout my own modality of quantum dimensional healing. Now, this is, as I've said, my own modality, which has come about over many years of doing many different things. And some absolutely amazing things have happened within this modality. And I have full permission to share this with you, share the journey and the stories. And know that at this time I will not be able to answer questions as I tell you the tale of this particular dimensional healing session, which actually happened in ancient Egypt. To give you a little bit of background, throughout the quantum dimensional healing, I use sound, frequency, and vibration, and I use tuning forks off the body. And the tuning fork for me personally is my barcode reader. And anything that has ever happened to you in any lifetime, any space, future, past, present, concurrent, succinct lives is all held within your barcode, your energy field, or other words that you may use for that. And the tuning fork picks up on the barcode, which contains information, which is then relayed to me. And I either see, hear, sense, feel what is going on in that barcode and relate that to the client on the table, while at the same time using the sound, frequency, and vibration of the tuning fork to dissolve the barcode. Now, throughout this dimensional healing session, at the end, what we do is ascend where needed, ascend the holographic body that we are working with. My own personal holographic body is in the time and space that is being spoken about. In this particular instance, it's going to be ancient Egypt. And I have traveled to many different places, different dimensions, different eras. And it's such a magical journey and my own personal magical playground. There has been some phenomenal feedback from this, and it can be equally done in person and distant wherever you may be in the world. So please allow me to tell you the tale of ancient Egypt throughout my holographic dimensional healing modality. I will read for you as I have narrated from the recording exactly what happened as best I can. Ancient Egypt. Stella had a specific condition, and the intention was not for healing, but to discover any messages her body wanted her to know that could be of enlightenment to help her accept or understand her condition. I was guided to pick up a 417 hertz tuning fork and began chiming it some distance away from her body until it directed me to stop at a solid barcode approximately 3 to 4 feet away from her body. The tuning fork chimed at that same point for quite some time. And in this instance, I was beginning to wonder if anything would come through to me, if there was going to be any information shown to me at that point, because it did take quite some time. And then I gradually started to see an image of a young girl who looked as if she was 3 or 4 years old. Now, usually this is not at all related to how far away or how close the tuning fork stops in the barcode in your energy field away from your body. But in this instance, it actually felt like it was. The child I saw was nowhere in particular. There was just a slight image of her in front of me. I could make out a dress, but I could not see any specific facial features at this time, and there was no background. I asked my client, Stella, what had happened 3 to 4 years before and who may have come back into her life, but she was sure that nobody had. I asked her if she had ever lost a child, and she told me no. Some minutes later, she began to tell me about her young granddaughter, who was in this lifetime, who we will call Eloise. She felt around about the same age as the child that I was seeing, but didn't know where this child was at that time. And as we were talking about Eloise, the client's granddaughter, the images started to take shape, and I found myself, my holographic body, standing there in ancient Egypt. And when I am there, I can see 360 degrees around me. It can be like a remote view, I suppose, in a way. Some have said that, but I don't claim to remote view. I don't claim to be psychic. I don't claim to be clairvoyant, clairsentient. For me, it is purely reading the barcode and deciphering the information while I'm being shown the images that represent that. So as I stood in ancient Egypt, I was in what looked like a palace facing very large windows that graced majestic views of the desert with a pyramid in the distance. The windows were open and white curtains were lightly blowing in a warm breeze. Furniture was placed with its back against the windows, where a very large sofa with a rolled end took center stage between the windows. As I looked around, I could see that marbling adorned the floor, and there was opulence all around, with beautiful and striking colors and golden decor. As my own holographic body began to stabilize, the information was becoming clearer in this beautiful place. Everything about it felt rich, and that means in every sense of the word. There was opulence everywhere. And I knew at that point, excuse me, that this was a past life that Stella had had. And she was clearly either some kind of royalty or extremely wealthy. Now, every now and again, my left brain will kick in. And on this occasion, it did. And it told me that as yet, no one I had ever worked with has ever been Cleopatra or anybody like that. But this was the closest yet, due to the abounding opulence. But Stella was not Cleopatra. Her name, I was told, in this Egyptian lifetime was Anip. The child I was seeing came closer in energy, but was still not fully showing herself. The information that was coming through was telling me that this child I was seeing, which seemed to be in this Egyptian lifetime, was Stella's child during this previous lifetime in Egypt as Anip. The child's name was Bahini. As Stella lay on the treatment bench in my physical clinic in this lifetime, this present time, I asked her if she had any interest in Egypt. And she replied, yes and no. I let that statement go and continued chiming the tuning fork through the barcode, where a thick and heavy barcode was beginning to dissolve, and the tuning fork was starting to move closer to the body. Information and sensations came right through me about Eloise, Stella's granddaughter, who she was telling me about earlier. with an overwhelming sensation that Eloise was Bahini, Bahini being the child of Anip, and Anip being Stella in a previous lifetime. Even saying this now, my whole vibrational body is absolutely buzzing. So that means that they had come full circle to meet again. Eloise had come into Stella's present lifetime approximately 3.5 years ago, just before Stella's condition was diagnosed. Now, this answered the earlier question I asked Stella of who came back into her life at that time. As I connected with Bahini, Anip's child, she showed me that she did not spend long in that Egyptian lifetime and left quite early, around 4 years of age. Anip was mortally devastated at the loss of her child, for which she never, ever recovered. Stella asked if that was perhaps the reason why she had always had difficulty connecting with her heart space. She told me it had always felt empty, and she was never truly able to connect with it or feel her heart, despite spending lifetime of trying various methods and techniques. Her heart was locked solid in this lifetime. It felt right to ask Stella to have a chat with Bahini in private, which she did in her own mind. I gave them time and space to do this while still chiming the tuning fork off the body. I didn't ask, and nor was I given any information about the conversation that went on. Stella simply confirmed to me that it was complete. Bahini then came to me with a message for Stella to let it go, release all. Time has long passed. They were her words to me for Stella. As the tuning fork moved through the barcodes, they assisted Stella to do as Bahini had asked and let it all go. My holographic body then turned around from facing the large window to see Anip on her knees, leaning over her very large and luxurious bed, sobbing uncontrollably. Her heavy heart literally heaved over the bed as Anip told me that she cried enough tears to fill the Nile. She had ascended due to a broken heart and soul. And that's why Stella was unable to feel her heart. Anip showed me an image of her sending Bahini down the Nile in a basket wrapped in white cotton, similar to the story of Moses. I told Stella, who said that of all the images in the Bible, she had always loved that of Moses floating in the basket down the Nile. I would have thought there was a very strong connection at that point. So this event was clearly stored somewhere in Stella's cellular memory and connecting her with Bahini. So Anip, through Stella, had never let go of her child. Anip's husband then appeared to my left, dressed in clothes similar to what a gladiator may wear, with the fluted type of skirt. Now, there may be a proper word for that, so I apologize if I'm offending anybody. But that's what I saw, just the fluted type of skirt with like some gold edging around it. And that did confuse me for a moment because I knew we were in ancient Egypt. I didn't feel the need to ask who he was or what he did. He simply told me that he had blamed Anip for the loss of their child, as she was unable to or could not find someone to heal Bahini. He was very unhappy with her. That caused a massive rift between them in that lifetime in Egypt. And they never, ever had another child. I was not shown how or what caused Bahini to ascend, but she did not ascend through an accident. It felt as if it was a condition that could not be healed. The tuning forks continued to dissolve, retune, and stabilize the energy patterns in the barcode. And as we worked with this, we then moved on to the ascension part. I asked Stella to gently connect with Aneep, to let her know that she had carried the trauma of the loss of Bahini through many lifetimes to this present lifetime as Stella. She asked if she may be willing to work with us to help her let it go and complete her ascension from Egypt. It was at this point that I saw and felt Aneep's utterly shattered and fractured soul, torn apart by grief. It looked like broken, fractured, and shattered glass, just these huge lines that had ripped her soul apart. Aneep was not at all ready nor willing to ascend. And this is somewhat unusual in these sessions, because usually at that point, it has been cleared so much in the barcodes away from the body that the ascended holograph that we're working with, or portion of the holograph, is ready to ascend and become complete with the whole. But Aneep did not want to do this at all. She wanted to stay in Egypt, which she said was her land, and where she would forever have a connection with her child, Bahini. The frequency, sound, and vibration continued to chime through these thick and heavy barcodes, and eventually I began to feel it release. As it began to clear, Aneep, in this ascension process, asked to call upon her gods and deities to help her, where she accepted being wrapped in a beautiful sphere of pure light and love to help heal her fractured heart. She was becoming more receptive to ascending, but there was still resistance. Stella actually said that to me as well during this session. Neep told me, and Stella told me, that she was absolutely tied to Egypt. It took quite a lot of work with the tuning forks chiming through those barcodes to help them dissolve even further. And at one point, Aneep's daughter Bahini, her face appeared in the clouds. And know that we are still working in Egypt. So Bahini's face appeared in the clouds. And in that split second, when Aneep saw Bahini's face, whoosh, she ascended. Her holographic body was reunited with its whole and made complete. And she had reunited with Bahini. The trauma of losing her child, her broken and shattered heart, was now healed from this Egyptian lifetime and all lifetimes thereafter. And this is how this holographic dimensional healing modality works. From the point of healing for that particular condition thereafter, it has been healed. Aneep appeared to me as I stood in the room where I saw her looking down at Stella in the treatment room. As Stella lay on the treatment bench, Aneep told me that she was horrified and shocked to see what had occurred as a result of her holding onto this trauma through all of these lifetimes, because there would have been lifetimes after Egypt, not just the one as Stella that was there with me on the treatment bench in that moment. Aneep wanted to help Stella, and she asked for Stella's blessing to do so, of which Stella agreed. I saw a beautiful, deep, golden yellow encase Stella. It looked almost turmeric in colour, but not as dense and dark as that, but not a bright yellow by any means. Anit told me that this was a special substance that she frequently used in Egypt. I have no idea what this substance was. So if anybody listening to this knows anything about ancient Egypt, I would be very curious to know what this was. It was very, very real. The tuning fork changed to a 432 hertz, where a sense of release and peace came over all of us, and further heavy barcodes just dissolved away. I reached for and went to strike one of my large crystal tuning forks when Anit stopped me and guided me, naturally so, to put the crystal tuning fork down and pick up one of my crystal pyramids, which obviously made sense, but it didn't come to me. I played this crystal pyramid over Stella, and during this time, Anit handed a gift through me to Stella of a deep blue and aqua colored stone. Again, I had no idea what this stone was. I could just see these beautiful colors entwined together. Anit told me this was a stone of generational healing that was specific for Stella at this time. As the pyramids played over and across Stella, she absolutely loved them and felt the energy so much in her body. And Anit said that they were to help with her future journey. After the session, Stella felt much calmer and more at peace and at ease. She had received her message about letting go and moving on. Everything that I had conveyed to her, that I had seen, made absolute sense to her, and she related to that completely. She told me that many years before, she had received a message through a reading that she and her were sisters together in Egyptian times, which I had no knowledge of. She was also told that she had lost a child but could not relate to it, which she could relate to this, losing a child in Egyptian times. So Egypt was a beautiful yet sad place to Stella. So hence her answering yes and no in the beginning when I asked if she had an interest in Egypt. On her way home, Stella left to visit a crystal shop to look for her Egyptian healing crystal and found exactly that in a stone called azurite, Azurite. Again, I had no knowledge of that. But on further searching this stone, it read that in ancient Egypt, azurite was considered to be a sacred stone, saved solely for the use by high priestesses and priests. It is known as the stone of heaven and removes blockages. Now, doesn't that just make perfect sense from the experience that we had just had together in ancient Egypt? Stella came for a follow-up session a few weeks after, where ancient Egypt appeared again. This time she was a beautiful princess riding a camel in her sacred home, the desert. The scene was similar to that within Lawrence of Arabia, with white robes blowing in the wind. But the messages were very, very different, as the energy and the trauma of the loss of the child in Egypt had cleared. And Stella had ascended from this lifetime a few weeks after this session. As we look back on this experience of this session of holographic dimensional healing, it makes me think about how we contract to come into each other's lives to play out and often swap roles for learning, healing experiences. And it is clear to me that Bahini had come back as Eloise in this lifetime. And at 3 to 4 years of age, Eloise had contracted to lose her grandmother at that age, as Aneep had contracted to lose her daughter at that age. They had this role reversal played out in a future lifetime. And again, that gives me complete chills all through my body. However, with the trauma having dissolved over these lifetimes since that Egyptian time, Eloise will swiftly recover. And we know that neither of them and both of them will never, ever repeat these experiences of loss again. Stella knew before she ascended this earthly plane that whatever lifetime her soul may enter, her shattered heart and soul has been mended. So how beautifully sad and enlightening this session was for everybody involved. And this video comes to you in loving memory of Stella and Eloise, and also of Aneep and Bahini, and to thank them all for coming through and sharing their beautiful journey and cleansing the trauma that had happened in these ancient Egyptian times that was showing itself in this lifetime here today, ready to be cleared again. Thank you so much for listening. I do hope you have enjoyed this tale of holographic dimensional healing and realize a little bit how powerful it can be and how clearings can happen regardless how long ago they were, whenever they happened in any lifetime or dimension. It doesn't matter whatsoever. Love and blessings and light to each and every one of you. Thank you all for listening.